Well, thank you so much, Josh, and a very good morning to everybody from Los Angeles. I know some folks are in the afternoon or even late evening. Melbourne always gets the prize for being up the very latest, so thank you to Lord Mayor Kat. And thank you to all my fellow brother and sister mayors who've just been part of an extraordinary effort. And thank you to the C40 staff, which always does such superb work. It is an honor to serve with you. It is an honor to lead you. It is an honor to walk through this fire at this moment together with you. And that's really what this is. This is a moment in which at least 2 or 3 crises simultaneously are demanded to be answered. A health crisis, a global in its reach of COVID-19. Together with that, the economic displacement unprecedented in our lifetimes for the citizens that we represent and the residents of our cities. And then also for many of us, the reckoning with racial justice and more broadly for this globe of inequality. And how these 3 things are not new to these mayors, that they are interconnected and tied together. A health crisis or a climate crisis lays out some of the fissures, some of the divisions that we have in our societies and globally. And leadership is about connecting these pieces and marching forward with a better way to get ahead and to deal with the present. We've seen so many of our residents suffering in this vulnerable moment. Jobs lost, businesses closed, safety nets being stretched to their breaking point. But the public health of human beings is something that ties together this moment and our commitment as an organization, because every life is sacred. And we look at whether it's a climate crisis or COVID-19 as our first duty is to be out there to ensure the safety and the lives of our people. This is a reckoning for all of us with how we live and how we plan to live. Something that C40 has led now for over a decade on, that this is not just about the present, but thinking about the medium and long term and enacting things that we can do today, actions we can take now, plans we can commit to right away to be sure that there still is an earth left to inhabit for all of us with our lives intact. Mayors by their nature are planners, and mayors by their nature are protectors. And so today we talk about both of those main qualities of cities and mayors who plan and who protect together. We deal with crisis every day, so it's something that's in our muscle memory. And before we were mandated to be placed inside our homes, we saw the impact that climate change was giving us to mandate oftentimes that people are displaced from their homes. So we know how personal this is to our residents. And before we even knew the name COVID-19, we saw the impact of a public health emergency called a climate crisis that could lead to the destruction of habitats and many other public health emergencies. And we've also been saying, I think for a long time, that returning to normal is not the goal. It's not the goal with climate. It's not the goal, obviously, with COVID-19. We want to take these moments to reimagine what normal is, because if normal means pollution, if normal means inadequate healthcare, if normal means divisions in society, that's not an acceptable normal. We want to capture what is good in the past in all of our cities, the beauty of our cultures and our societies, our sense that people belong in these diverse, huge cities, 96 of them now that represent a quarter of the world's GDP that comprises C40. But we want to go forward to a different sort of normal, a new normal, when it comes to pollution, when it comes to displacement, when it comes to a heating planet, and when it comes to economic opportunity. So crisis can confuse or it can clarify. And I'm confident that this will be a moment of clarification and of action. We're here to say with one loud voice, this should be a moment of global clarity, a time to see what wasn't working and to change that, not only to recover, but to reimagine in our cities and our countries and throughout our world. We're sober, I think, about our priorities at this moment, to continue saving lives wherever we can and grieving with families who are deeply affected by COVID-19 and protecting our citizens against a virus that remains a threat to all of us, as severe today as when it first arrived on our global scene. But we can't treat our biggest issues as just a laundry list of one-off projects, trying to tackle public health one day, then economic equality the next, the climate crisis, and racial and gender justice following that. That creates an endless cycle. It promotes poverty, it increases division, and it ensures that in a truly global fight like the one against COVID-19 or climate crisis, that will never make the headway that we need. So instead, we need to look at the whole picture, reckon with how these problems are interconnected with each other, and take action. So that means, first and foremost, putting sustainability and climate justice at the center of how we move forward from COVID-19. Now, that's been the mission of this organization since its outset. It's what our global Green New Deal is all about that we announced last summer, to connect the end of ecological degradation with the economic displacement of too many people and inequality, how we protect our vulnerable communities, while at the same time we address a climate emergency through a lens of equity, both globally and locally. And that's why since the earliest days of this pandemic, we've organized regular meetings. They've been extraordinary, some of the most extraordinary meetings of my life, straight out of a superhero movie where they say, get me the global mayors. And suddenly you have the mayors of the entire world on the phone with each other, managing this crisis, sharing best practices. And thank you, Josh, for mentioning our fallen brother, Mayor Park, who was a part of that first call, a dear friend who we mourn. But we also solve the deeply rooted problems that we have throughout the world every single day that have sprung up with alarming force because of COVID-19. These conversations led to this task force today, led of these superstar global mayors. This is the Avengers. This is the A-Team. This is the group of folks who have stepped forward to combine their collective wisdom and experience and passion and focus to create a mayoral roadmap for a green and just pandemic recovery. Our agenda is a testament to the power of global partnerships that, born from the insight and the feedback of all C40 mayors, that we made sure folks from every region were represented and leading. It details the efforts of C40 to implement a green and just recovery at the local level, collectively tying together to a global response to both COVID-19 and the climate crisis. And there's clear recommendations, investments we need to make. This isn't some sort of put on the shelf report. This is a green print for us to move forward today in every one of the C40 cities. And if we've learned anything in the past months, it's that states and provinces and cities, localities can lead the way, but we can't do it alone. So we also call on our national governments and international institutions to consider how we are looking at our COVID-19 recovery so they too can align and sometimes even be inspired by and take our report as a jumping off point for national action. For instance, that no stimulus should exist if it's not a green stimulus to our economy. This is not the moment to prop up carbon intensive industries, to invest in fossil fuel subsidies. It's a moment to double down on our low carbon infrastructure and accelerate that. It's not time to glaze over economic inequalities and just say any recovery is a good recovery. It's time to invest in good paying, high quality jobs and careers for our people, to support workers in our most vulnerable communities, and to improve our public health and our air quality, to invest in our public transportation. And we know that there is a long road back, but we are one voice. We join together as one organization, one community. We bring together youth activists and climate scientists, trade unions and global business leaders. We call on every level of leadership to seize this moment, to reverse the course, to rewrite the rules of our social compact and emerge with a reaffirmation of our commitment to the global Green New Deal and to run full speed ahead towards the future we all need. With that, I want to turn to a video message from our board president, a former New York mayor who also was former chair, sitting in this seat of this organization when he was mayor, our dear friend, Mike Bloomberg, who will be with us via video.
Hello, everyone. As the coronavirus pandemic rages on, mayors around the world are leading important efforts to protect their cities and build them back stronger, healthier, greener, and more equitable than ever before. The C40 Mayors Agenda, which we are releasing today, lays out a roadmap for helping them do that, and it urges national governments and central banks to support this work. We've known for a long time that building stronger economies and fighting climate change go hand in hand. And now, cities and countries around the world have an unprecedented opportunity to do both. I want to give special thanks to the mayors on our call today for everything they're doing to drive us forward. Thank you.
And thank you, Mike. We appreciate your leadership and steadfast support of everything we have done. You've been an inspiration. Next, let me turn it over to the chair of the task force, who I asked to lead a group of mayors, each one of them extraordinary in who they are and what they brought. But he is one of the cardinals of this C40, somebody who has led on food policy, who has shown the way forward in his city, which was one of the earliest places most deeply affected by COVID-19. And he has done an exceptional job. The mayor of Milan, my friend, our friend, Giuseppe Sala. Pepe?
Thank you, Mayor Gassetti and the fellow task force member and all those who have joined us today. We are happy that we are able to join us to launch the C40 Mayor Agenda for a Green and Just Recovery, a report produced by C40 Mayoral Task Force on COVID-19 recovery. Now, the task force that I had the honor to chair has worked actively to research and write this report. It set the actions cities are delivering or planning to ensure a sustainable and equitable recovery from the social, economic, and health crisis that the world is facing. And it includes a call to action to national governments and other international institutions to support this action. I will come back to this point, which is fundamental for us. Now, I will give a brief overview of the report before handing over to my fellow task force mayor who acknowledge the inputs and action in their cities and our asks to national governments and international institutions. As Mayor Gassetti said, COVID-19 is causing immense suffering and hardship, especially in cities, in our cities. This global health pandemic has compounded a wider social and economic crisis, exposing the deep inequality in our cities and across cities in different regions of the world. And we, Mayor, know that the pandemic is connected to climate emergency. And so the recovery is our chance to create the green and just future we want. And I know it very well, being Mayor of Milan. We now know that the causes of the pandemic have roots in environmental destruction. And recovery sustainably is the only way to avoid future pandemics or future health crises. And it is not only possible, it is necessary for a real recovery and to prevent future shocks. We need green jobs and an inclusive economy, more resilience and equity, a focus on health and well-being. Now, the point is that cities are working on it, but cannot do it all alone. This is the fundamental point. We are working, we are fighting on that, but we need the support of the national and regional governments. So we are requesting the national, regional governments and international institutions to support a green and just recovery. And we are asking them, let me simplify a couple of things. Number one, end all public subsidies to fossil fuels, and that the only stimulus be a green stimulus. And second, we ask support to go directly to sustainable cities. Why? Because we protect and champion mass transit, because we prioritize and progress clean energy, and because we commit to an equitable and inclusive recovery. So we are asking them, in reality, we are asking even to the private sector, to the union, to all those who want to cooperate with us to work this way. Now, another fundamental issue is that as the G20 finance minister meet this weekend, we ask them to support and ensure that our call to action can be a global reality supported by national government. As mayor, we are collaborating, we are acting, we are leading on creating the future we want, and we ask them to join us in securing a green and just post-COVID world. Huge amounts of climate action is already underway, transforming the world's great city for the better. Now we need national governments and international institutions to follow our lead and to help deliver this agenda for the benefit of everyone. Thank you, and back to you, Eric.
Thank you so much, Mayor Sala, and thank you for leading an amazing group and really doing great work. We know, as everybody who's on this call, I hope has been briefed, this is our interim report to have actionable items. This will commit to a group that will go through the end of the year as well to look even more broadly throughout the year on building on this initial interim report. With that, let me turn over to 8 amazing mayors from around the world, literally, who do represent this globe. Starting first from a mayor of an incredible global city who has been an exceptional leader, who has saved lives during this COVID-19 crisis, one of the earliest places hit in the United States of America, but just been an exceptional leader, an exceptional person, the mayor of Seattle, Jenny Durkin.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti, and I want to echo your comments that I could not think of a better group to be part of than this group of global mayors. We have seen just an unprecedented coalition of people acting before the pandemic and now pulling together. We know that the global pandemic has no frontiers, nor does the threat to our climate. And we want to pull together because we as mayors also know that we have no frontiers. We are not bound by the same boundaries that some of our national governments are. We rise together and know that cities really are the barometer of health for our planet, and the mayors and cities can also be the compass to point us to the better future. I'm talking just briefly today about some of the things that Seattle has done on the economy and jobs as we talk about all the other things the great mayors are doing. We in Seattle are learning every day from our fellow mayors. We know that to fight this global pandemic, we must pull together. We know that we have not had a series of events with the pandemic, the economic downturn, and the racial reckoning that we're having, not just here in America, but across the globe. If we see the impact of all of these events, they fall too harshly on people who have the least and fall too harshly on those of our communities of color. We have an obligation to act. And as most difficult as this is, we know that by breaking so many of the systems in place, we have this unbelievable opportunity to come back, not to a new normal, but to a better normal, to a compass that really points us to a better direction. In Seattle, we want to talk a little bit about what we've done with the economy. We knew to get through this, we had to not just build more resilience, we had to build back better as we were building that resilience. So as we saw so few jobs that were able to operate during the pandemic, we looked at those that had to. And we saw that some of our food delivery companies and ride-sharing platforms, that those people, again, primarily from the communities of color, were working long hours with no health insurance, no rest breaks, and no resilience for them and their families. So we put a law in place to ensure that all of our gig workers had access to paid sick and safe time. That meant that if they became sick or members of their family did, that they too could take time off to make sure that they could look at their health. Building that in now, when we come back, we know we have to look at all our workers and ensure that when we come out of this pandemic, that we put in place those kinds of protections that will make us a more resilient city in the future. We know that in the future, we also have, like many cities, people began to rely on Uber and Lyft. As we come back, we know that those again will be popular. So we are sending down a law that will make sure that every Uber and Lyft driver gets paid minimum wage and has adequate benefits and expenses so that they too can have a job that can ensure good family wages for their family and really participate in our economy. We think that some of these things are just basics. We know we have to do more. Seattle is already facing gross inequities in its economy, with those who were in the new innovative economy having the highest paid jobs and those in the service economy not having those types of wages or benefits. So we're working very hard to make sure that we bridge that gap and that those companies that have more can pay more and that workers are given the protections that they deserve. We, of course, did what many cities did to build the resilience. We had to change senior programs into Meals on Wheels, where we were delivering hot meals to seniors. We fed thousands and thousands of Seattle families with a grocery voucher program. But each one of these programs shows us just not that what we can do, but the need of what we have to do. So as we come back, we're looking at every job sector to see how can we make sure that not only the workers have the wages they depend on, but how do we build the green economy into the new economy? Every city emerging from the pandemic will have a new economy. We will all have to rebuild and recover. If we do it together to ensure that that rebuilding and recovery is centered on equity and centered on a better, friendly climate and a green platform, we will be able to do, I think, in a very brief time, what it may have taken us decades to do. This pandemic, as difficult and deadly as it's been, has also given our globe a real opportunity to throw off the old ways of doing things. I'll close with one last thing. I want to echo what my friend, the mayor of Milan, said. Transit is going to be critical. And I just transmitted a package to institute a new tax or continuing a tax so that we can continue our investment in transit. We know it's been challenging during the COVID and that transit ridership has dropped off, not just because people aren't traveling as much, but because of some of the fears around transit. But when we come out of this, we are going to need transit more than ever. And so we have doubled down on making sure that we can have a good transit system for our city and our region, because we know that's part of the green economy that has to come up. So those are some of the things Seattle's doing. I've learned every day from the mayors and look forward to hearing the other planks of our platform today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Durkin. Appreciate you and all you are doing, and thank you for being with us on this call. Another one of our superstar global mayors is Mayor Abutaleb of Rotterdam. Ahmed Abutaleb has led not only in his city and in Europe as well, but has been a critical part of C40 and of this task force. We really valued and appreciated his global and local look. So let me turn it over to you to speak about Rotterdam. Mayor Abutaleb.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for this kind introduction, Mayor. I'm the mayor of Rotterdam. I'm also the regional authority when it comes to fighting the COVID-19 virus in our region. That is a region of 15 cities. So I can tell you that we managed recently to get the virus for a high degree under control. And so we have, in my city of Rotterdam, a couple of places where we have the danger of the virus, but we have good news to tell you. And I follow the international news every day through CNN, and then I'm really worried and I have great feelings about what happens in the United States, for instance, at this very moment. So this is a very small positive signal, I think, from my part of the world. Our city government, for which I'm the leader, recently decided to say, look, we feel the pain of our citizens, we feel the worries of our citizens. So the answer must be giving our citizens hope and perspective. And that's I think the major reason why we designed a couple of measures started coming week, a number of measures starting soon, and a number starting next year. So I would like to walk through what we're going to do the coming period. In the social domain, we start next week providing 6,000 kids an opportunity of a summer campus, summer school. That is designed to meet the need of a lot of families and to close the gap of 2.5 months, 3 months in which the primary schools have been closed. So we try to speed up the process of getting these kids in a good shape when the schools will reopen in the fall. The other one is what we did is we decided to open a lot of facilities for people that live in the Netherlands, but they don't have the rights of our citizens because they're coming from Eastern Europe as foreign workers. If they lose the job and they have no food to provide shelter for all these people, regardless the status they have in the Netherlands. As I've been really working to keep the vulnerable under good circumstances in good places with at least food and medical assistance. The other thing that we decided to do is to continue our project in the energy transition. We invest 150 million euros, that's a lot of money, to work on projects in the field of energy transition. There is a variety of projects in the solar and wind energy projects. One of the largest windmills in the world, I think the first one in the world, is constructed in Rotterdam. It has wings as high as the Eiffel Tower, and it produces 12,000 megawatts of electricity. So it's a huge project. The other one is to invest in attractiveness of the city. 7 major green parks and green areas will be built in the city to reduce the heat in the city, to make the city attractive, but also to make the city attractive for developers to come to the city to invest in affordable housing, for instance. Then, good to inform you that Shell, a private company, a global player, recently decided, and that is an investment decision, so it's not a plan, it's an investment decision to build the first major hydrogen plant in the world in the port of Rotterdam. That is the first step to speeding up the process of getting green energy, and that is, I think, really important to let you know. Having the new economy, to me, it's really important to know that you have also people with the new skills to work in the new economy. For instance, all these people working in garages dealing with existing engines, these people will lose the jobs if we do not prepare them for these jobs. So we have a budget of 50 million euros, 50, to educate 20,000 people of our workforce to meet the needs of the new labor market in the future. This is a number of projects, and of course, we would like to continue our collaboration with the Dutch government, but also with Brussels. And for that reason, I invited the Vice President of the European Commission when he accepted my invitation to come to the Netherlands in November to talk to government parties, but also to private parties. And by doing that, he will talk about a huge stimulus package coming from Brussels to stimulate cities, regions, and nations to meet the new economy and to invest in the green economy. So this is a couple of things that we're planning to do the coming weeks and the coming years to work on in the field of green city, new economy, and green jobs.
Thank you so much, Mayor Boutella. Appreciate your success and your suggestions, and congratulations. We pray and hope that you'll continue to be able to keep those numbers down. We know that it's been because of your leadership that we've seen such good work. So congratulations on that. Let me next turn to our next mayor, who is Mayor Quintero, who's joining us from Medellin, Colombia. He is one of our newest members of the steering committee, but has already emerged as maybe Rookie of the Year. Somebody who's doing a great job, has an expansive vision, is implementing some bold and brave moves in Medellin, not only as a part of this global pandemic, but in his long-term visioning and ecological and economic leadership. So, Mayor, bienvenidos. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti. Well, it has been an honor to represent Latin America in the Global Mayor COVID-19 Recovery Task Force of C40 Network. Among the main challenges that the pandemic leaves us is to strengthen our voices and clear that our ambition is not to return to normal, it is to build a better, more sustainable, more resilient, and fairer society out of the recovery from the COVID-19 crisis. As C40 mayors, we need to act as entrepreneurial governments, taking the lead in creating new, good, green jobs, supporting and recognizing essential workers and ensuring skills and training are available so that workers, in particular in polluting industries, can move directly into jobs in the sectors of the future. In my appreciation, and thanks to other cities for sharing their experiences and for the results achieved in this process, all cities had the obligation to innovate, to lead the future we want for the next generations. Medellin bets on that, and to becoming an eco-city and a software valley that support the solution of the world's problem with initiatives such as making the largest investment on education ever. We don't want to reactivate the economy. We seek to create a new economy by creating 20,000 jobs in industries associated with the digital revolution, investing in software valley centers, and building 2 new universities for science and technology. Investing also in a low carbon infrastructure to generate employment, including a new metro line. There is going to be our 3rd metro line with the potential to generate 2,100 jobs during construction and around 900 permanent jobs after completion. Planting also 10 million trees. Planting trees in our program is going to create thousands of jobs for communities. So at the same time we're planting trees, we're building jobs that the community needs right now in this moment that the activation is needed. We will train also 25,000 people in science, technology, and innovation with an emphasis in women, youth, and older people to guarantee equity and access to labor markets. In partnership with a worldwide online learning platform, we are establishing an initiative for the recovery of the labor force that will improve the skills of local workforce and certify up to 5,000 people as part of the digital revolution needed to create the city software valley we want. We are completely sure that there are many new strategies, innovative strategies that we can use to change the future of our people. We believe that a different future is possible. We don't want to go back to the past. We want, again, to build a new future. Medellin is recognized because it was able to recover from the hardest and the most difficult times in the 80s after the drug dealers took place and tried to change our future and deny our future for us. Well, now we're ready again to build a new future. Thank you, Mayor Garcetti.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you so much in what you're doing. It is so important to have the global reach in Mayor Quintero. You have led not only in Latin America and in your country and in such a dynamic city, but for the entire world. So we appreciate you. Muchísimas gracias. Next, we turn to Africa and another one of our superstar mayors, who many of you got a chance to see globally when we gathered in Copenhagen. Mayor Yvonne Aki-Sawyer, who is joining us from Freetown, has certainly looked at the tensions that exist between trying to take local action and national action. She has been an unyielding voice to make sure that we're focused on listening to indigenous voices that are coming up and demanding that we always have an equal look throughout the world at resources and the mitigation, which Freetown has obviously had to look at when it comes to the climate crisis. But we love her, we know her, we appreciate her. And Yvonne, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure to be among my colleague mayors from around the world. And as Eric has said, bringing up the voice of those for whom this crisis has been quite different. Different in the sense that we're talking about recovery, and we are so committed, all of us as mayors here, to a green and just recovery. But different because we started in a context where some of these challenges that are being highlighted by the outbreak were already very much present. So the challenges of inequality, the challenges of climate were already being felt in a very strong way from our context. So here we have a situation where even the pandemic itself has been quite different. Deaths in the whole of Sierra Leone. And so in some regards, it would feel as though the pandemic has been, in some regards, it feels as though the pandemic has passed us by, but the impact of the pandemic on the economy has been really, really strongly felt with the closure of borders and the lockdowns and the fact that, can you hear me?
We absolutely can hear you loud and clear. Don't worry. The video's coming in and out, but we can hear you and now we can see you. Go for it. Oh, now we lost you maybe.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
it's the network. But if you can hear me, you've lost me. So if you can hear me, what I wanted to say is that in Freetown, we have focused, as so many of my colleague mayors around the world, with trying to ensure that are addressing the pandemic or the most vulnerable are covered. Simple things because of our informal communities, because of the challenge with self-isolation, something others take for granted. We just yesterday opened a community care center, which will enable those living in overcrowded informal settlements to be safely isolated because they can't do so at home. Water has been another major input, and looks as though I've been lost. Water has been another major input where we have very quickly increased our provision of water to informal settlements, increasing that by 20%, bringing in tanks and setting up rainwater harvesting systems. But moving beyond the pandemic and those specific actions, we are still grappling with the impact of climate change. We're still, they turn it off. We're still grappling with the impact of climate change, and we're facing at this very moment a rainy season that's seeing massive flooding. So our commitment to greening our economy with the planting of 1 million trees, work which started on World Earth Day, but which will be continuing this weekend. And listening to the mayor of Medellin, we've taken a leaf out of his book, and we're also pushing forward with a cable car system. Mass transit has been a theme for many of our mayors, and it's no different for ourselves, except that this will be the first time. So COVID has given us an opportunity to see what was there more starkly, but it's also given us the incentive to push forward with making sure that our recovery continues to invest in the most vulnerable, continues to invest in green, and continues to ensure that we're able to provide more opportunities for those who are the most vulnerable. And in closing, I just want to say sustainability has been so important. In the midst of this outbreak, we have also rolled out a new property rate system to ensure that we have the resources as a city, that a new property rate system that is more fair, more equitable, brings in those who are better able to pay, so that we can invest in a future for all of our city. And I think there's a problem with the sound in the video, so I'm going to close here. No, Mayor Cantrell is saying no. So thank you very much. Just to say, we're committed in Freetown to a green, a just recovery. And for us, it's not just a recovery, it's a resetting. It's a push, it's an impetus to build better into the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we heard every single thing you said, so don't worry. It was just a little bit of the video hiccup. So we really appreciate those great comments, and feel free to turn back on your video. We'd love to see you, and certainly for Q&As. Next, I'd like to turn over to, unfortunately, Lisbon Mayor Fernando Medina was unable to join us in person, but he sent us a video, and I want to play that right now, and then we'll hear from Mayor Cantrell of New Orleans following that.
Hi, this is Josh from C40. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to receive that video, so we're going
All right, easy peasy. Well then, good. I get to turn over to my sister mayor here back in the United States, who's also from one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and has really been an amazing leader in the midst of COVID-19. And we all know that New Orleans has been synonymous with what the fight of the climate crisis means in human terms. They've experienced for the past couple decades. And we really appreciate her leadership in C40 and the work that she did on this task force. So Mayor Cantrell, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you again, Mr. Chairman, and to my brother and sister mayors across the globe for allowing me to just be a part of this great partnership and fellowship. In the city of New Orleans, much like you just heard from my sister mayor, Mayor Aki Swire, we came at this with a deficit. And in terms of the disparity gaps that exist within the city of New Orleans. But equity is a topic really at the heart of our recovery in the city. We became very much aware of the the impacts of COVID-19 on our Black and Brown community. Out of, we've had 542 deaths in our city. And out of the 542, 404 are Black and Brown. Our response to this pandemic is an opportunity still to create a much more healthier, more sustainable and equitable city, no doubt about it. We are known, we're a destination city, very rooted in hospitality industry, which has been hit really hard. Even our gig economy, our cultural barriers and the like. So we find that not only do we want to play to our strengths, but this is a time really to diversify our economy. And we know that we're looking at green and blue infrastructure to do just that. Of course, not ignoring gray, we've been doing a lot of that, but it's through the green and blue that we will move towards a healthier and sustainable environment for all. Allowing everyone to take advantage of green jobs and foster sustainable industries, again, a priority. We see pathways to future-oriented careers, again, in solar, that green infrastructure, energy management, and other jobs that really take and make New Orleanians more resilient. A couple of examples, helping our residents make sure that their homes are more energy efficient, and as well as city structures as well, but we're talking about our people. So we have a program called Solar for All NOLA, and it's designed truly to make all of the homes, 100% of our homeowners in our city, that their homes are energy efficient and therefore getting that bear out of their pocket and putting those dollars right back in. Also, we've created a partnership with our housing authority, the finance authority, to create green mortgages. And again, providing homes that are already green and efficient, that can withstand our inclement weather patterns and natural disasters, but giving those mortgages again to our people. Programs that create and train our workforce. We're really using our benefits, our state benefits as it relates to training our workforce. Those dislocated worker dollars we're using to train our people, again, in green workforce, our bio-innovation space, medical space, energy reduction and resiliency. That's all a part of it. And at the end of the day, it's cutting the greenhouse gas emissions that we must do. And that has to happen everywhere. But we're trying our best here in the city of New Orleans and doing well with that. Also had the opportunity to embrace a climate action plan. And central to that is all the things that I talked about, but including transit. We've heard that from my brother and sister mayors over and over again, but it's so vitally important. We are restructuring our bus routes, our schedules, and our on-time performance that's already being implemented because it's getting people to and from. We have also started our regional approach where our buses our folks would have to pay a different fare when they left our parish, which is a county in some areas. So we've eliminated that additional cost to our people. Also, really pushing our minority residents into participating into contracts as it relates to our environment and infrastructure needs, and making sure that they can bid on these contracts as primes, not just as subs on the job. And that is a game changer for this community in particular. Also, when we think about investing in our low-income neighborhoods, it goes right back to solar and making sure that our folks are living in not only energy efficiency, but it's the air quality that, again, COVID has pushed us back into our homes a little bit. And in these homes, our people need to be breathing clean air and not becoming sicker because of it. And at the end of the day, you know best that we're all in this together. I think this task force is a true example of that. And particularly being here in the United States and working with my brother and sister mayors in the US, I'm telling you, leaning on the leadership that we're experiencing from our mayors across the globe has been critical to, I know, keeping my momentum high. So with that, we're going to continue to lean on in together, make sure that we're focusing on science-based and community-focused agendas and approaches. And we're going to get through it, and we are going to be better because of it. And I cannot wait to see you all soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mayor Cantrell, and thank you for all you're doing for one of the most beautiful cities on the face of the earth, and your exceptional equity lens of justice that you always bring to everything you do. We've got two other mayors, and one who we should have probably cruelly, we keep her, she's second to last, but we should have put her first because, as I said, she's up the latest. It is well into the next morning. But the Lord Mayor of Melbourne, who has been really on all these calls and has always been so tolerant of the difference in time. I think as a reward, we should pick noon in Melbourne, and even if it's the middle of the night for us, we should all wake up and have the next meeting. But Lord Mayor Cap, thank you. You also did an extraordinary job in reaction to COVID-19. I know there's, like all of us, constant vigilance on that, but congratulations on what you've achieved and also how you're tying that together with our climate work. I'd like to turn over to you, and thank you for the work you did on this committee.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti. It is a pleasure to participate even at 1 a.m. in the morning. Excuse me. The City of Melbourne is convinced that a green and just response is the best way to guarantee a sustained recovery from COVID-19. We had a hard lockdown in our public housing last week, which really exposed the inequity in our economy and community. COVID-19 has been revealing in so many ways, and we've heard that across the cities this evening. Tonight, I'm really featuring in the health and wellbeing section of the report. It's about giving space back to people and nature. It's about rethinking and reclaiming our streets. It's about cleaning our air and creating livable local communities. We wanted to feature the rollout of our Greening the City program, 150,000 trees, plants and shrubs planted. Normally it would take us years, planted in 6 months. We're well underway. We're at the 50,000 mark after just 4 weeks. This will underpin our city recovery and accelerate health, equity and economy in the City of Melbourne. It's 24,000 square metres of glorious COVID-repelling habitat and diversity. It's space for everyone to exercise and to create and enjoy fresh air. And it is about new jobs supporting green industries. In Melbourne, we aim for a new extraordinary, which is going to take bold steps. And this is possible through the shared learning and action of C40. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lord Mayor. We appreciate you. I want to look as put together at that hour at 1 a.m. I'm going to just wear the suit all day and see what happens at 1 a.m. and send a picture to everybody. We appreciate you deeply, and thank you for your exceptional leadership and the collective mayors in Australia who've always been so supportive of C40. Finally, I'd like to give the floor for the grand finale to our dear friend, the Mayor of Montreal, Valérie Plante, who has led the way with one of the people pushing actually to see what we could do collectively to respond to this moment and not just individually, and really has been an exceptional asset to this report. I want to thank her and turn it over to her.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say how it is always a pleasure to be part of this this task force surrounded by amazing mayors who are doing great work. And it's very helpful for me here in Montreal to be supported by a network of people that are thinking outside of the box. And I think this is what people are expecting from us before the crisis, but especially with the COVID-19, where we do need to think differently. And I feel like for all of us, whatever our context is, and the size of our city, or the different realities we're dealing with, or time zone, as for the mayor of Melbourne, I definitely want to say that knowing that we all value the ecological transition, but also a great socio-economical recovery is so important, because I like to say here in Montreal that though I'm really moving forward with the ecological transition, but I don't want to leave anyone behind. And I think that this crisis is showing how socio-economical gap can even get more, they can get even bigger because of a crisis like the pandemic. So here in Montreal, we've been, though, we would have done without this crisis, of course, like all of us, but I decided to take it as an opportunity to also show Montrealers, but people around the world, of what does it mean to give back space to people. And I know many of our cities, my fellow brothers and sisters mayors, are doing similar initiative, but how does it look like to give back space, green spaces, streets as well, for both cyclists and pedestrians, in a way not only to to minimize our green gas emissions, but also as a way for people to keep the distance needed because of the COVID-19, but to be able to walk around. And to me, it is a great opportunity for people to really realize what it means, how much space a car takes versus many pedestrians or cyclists. So we've created more than 300 extra kilometers of pedestrians and cyclists secure paths, and 300 within, I would say, about 2 months, which is huge. And I think all of us know what it means to move so fast. There's been some concerns, and some people have been quite upset with, changing their life, or changing their daily life or their habits. But at the end, what we're seeing right now is that what we created made it possible for people to be outside and feel safe because of the distance that is easier to keep in a big city like Montreal, but also because it supports local business streets. We want to encourage people to buy local, to go to, forget about Amazon, or forget about those big online platform. How about you go support your local merchant, which is on a public street, on a business street that is now pedestrian, so you feel actually safe. And we've been using a lot of arts and different ways to engage people into those streets. So I guess my point right now is to say that this task force has been very useful. Again, the fact that we share so many great values, and it's how we're showing the way to higher government, that this is how we're doing things. This is how city adapts. This is how city finds solution. And we do need to have the support, the recognition, and of course, the financial resources for us to move forward, because we know what's going on the ground. So thank you all. It's been a pleasure to be part of this task force.
Thank you so much, Mayor Plante, and thank you to all the mayors. We'll now turn open. I want to thank a very tolerant media for listening to each one of us, but we wanted to make sure each one of the task force members was able to bring the perspective of their region, of their city, and of their particular brilliance to this. And with that, Josh, why don't we open up for questions?
Thank you very much, Mayor Garcetti. So we've had some great questions come in. I'm conscious of the time, so we'll ask a couple, and then we'll follow up any that we don't get to by email. So the first is from Alex Owen Hunt at the Financial Times. He asks, how can cities boost private investment into marginalized communities, especially those most affected by climate change and the pandemic? I'm particularly interested in foreign direct investment. I wonder if that would be a good question for the Mayor of New Orleans.
Okay, thank you, and good morning again. As it relates to, am I on?
Yes, you are. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. And the question was about investing in communities that have a great need. Is that correct?
Yes, and
Yeah.
getting foreign direct investment into those communities.
Sure. Well, that continues to be in terms of foreign investment in communities, for example, in the city of New Orleans, that remains a challenge. One of the things that we do is to ensure that we're utilizing our public dollars as a way to leverage against private dollars and building a funding metrics, pretty much a partnership to ensure that investment can occur. But we do not benefit significantly from foreign investment in the city. But definitely being an international city, we're open to it being a port city as well. We believe that we're ripe for these types of investments. So making sure that we're always accessible, that we're able to leverage our public dollar and assets, and also demonstrate our ability to build financial partners through philanthropy and other private sectors and sources as well. That would create a strong partnership in hopes to attract foreign investment. But right now, I am not benefiting from much of that.
Thank you, Mayor Conchal. Perhaps that would be a question for Mayor Akisoya.
Yes, I was just reflecting actually as I was listening to Mayor Cantrell. In terms of the city, we've got some restrictions around borrowing, but for FDI, if it was going to be investment as an equity, not borrowing, the doors are open. I actually was having a conversation because part of what we want to do going forward is ensure that we are investing in the regeneration of the city center. We're investing in housing. I already made mention of the cable car, which is going through a feasibility study at the minute, but we are very open to private sector investment. So I think going forward, this is true not just of mayors like myself from the Global South, but really across the board. There's a recognition that the sort of growth that we want to see in the green economy, in the circular economy, is going to require private partnership, private sector partnership, private sector investment. So the answer, I suppose, is the door is open, but like with everybody else, there will be a case-by-case basis, and we certainly are contactable if there's any real interest here. We have a Transform Freetown agenda, a 3-year development plan, and we already have private sector investment into that and continue to welcome that. It's a plan which is very much focused on green and climate focused growth. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm conscious we have had this wonderful collection of mayors for an hour now. I know that some have pressing prior engagements. So if anyone would like to drop off, please feel free. I will just do 1 or 2 more questions if anybody is able to still stay on the line. Great. So the next question is from Tom in the 48 Hills SF Bay area. Public transportation everywhere was underutilized and underfunded before COVID-19, and the pandemic has made it worse. A green recovery will depend on convincing commuters everywhere to return to public transportation and not rely on their cars. How can this be done? And I wonder if Mayor Kapp could perhaps speak to that.
Yes, it's a big conundrum, and we're working on a number of those ideas at the moment. The biggest part for us is giving people confidence that it's clean and safe. So part of what we've been doing is increasing the cleaning and the visible cleaning of public transport. We're also working on staggering start times so that we don't see peaks. So we're really talking about extending the peak to reduce numbers that are on public transport at any one time. One of the reasons why we're accelerating the rollout of bicycle tracks, dedicated bicycle tracks, is that the closer public transport comes to the CBD, the less likely it is that people will be able to get on, given that the volume starts out and increases as it comes in. So we need to provide options. So I think making sure that there are encouraging people onto transit, but making sure there are good options in the meantime is also important. And we're currently in the midst of a big debate on masks. We've just gone to encouraging but not compulsory, but in public areas and public transport is a first area of focus. Making masks compulsory is certainly right at the centre of what we're doing. We also know that increasing the amount of rolling stock on trams and train lines will be important. We do manufacture some of that here in Australia, and it's another way of promoting green jobs. So there are some thoughts, but we haven't cracked that conundrum yet.
Great, thank you. A question from Mayor Salah. Sorry. And this is from Patrick Sisson at Bloomberg City Lab. Can you speak more to the 15-minute city concept, the challenges of implementing it, and how this idea can help improve equity and economic recovery?
Yes, thank you. Some cities are counting on these opportunities, on this idea, and Milan, my city, is one of those. Now, the very simple idea is to tell the people living in a district, we will give you the most relevant services you need to a distance walking or to a bicycle ride in 15 minutes. What I mean, public services, green, schools, everything you need. And it is possible because you know that cities are even physically divided into districts. In the oldest cities like Milan, in the past, those districts were municipalities, then incorporated in the city. And there is also a sense of pride in the people for that district. Now, we were working on this idea before the pandemic, but now we are accelerating because we want to avoid a surge in car travel traffic. And because we are understanding that unfortunately the people is still worried with public transport. I don't know the other. We had a discussion with the other mayor, but we have this problem that now the people is still concerned in using public transport. So we had to limit the public transport utilization. We had to, for sure, limit, even for environmental reason, limit the surge in car travel. And that is the idea for which we are very rapidly give the opportunity to the people to live in that district. Of course, they can go everywhere, but this is a good idea because even for the future, it will give the sense of a global city, but also your district is your city.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm just going to take one more question and then we'll wrap up. This is a question from Expansión magazine in Mexico City. They would like to know if C40 has recommendations about decent housing. In cities like mine, the housing and gentrification are huge problems. I will be sure, Fernanda, who asked this question, I will connect you with the Mayor of Lisbon's team because they are really excellent, their contributions to the report on housing. So we'll follow up with you on that. But if there's anyone on the line who would like to speak to the question of housing and gentrification, please go ahead. Okay, no, great. Well, I can follow up with that with you directly with the Mayor of Lisbon, who I'm sure will be very happy to speak to that. So we've now reached the end of today's press conference. Thank you very much to all of our speakers and to everybody who dialed in. If you have any follow-up questions, or if we didn't get to your question, we will follow up with you afterwards. Please feel free to email us on media@c40.org. Otherwise, thank you very much. Take care and stay safe.
Stay safe.
Goodbye.